Hey there and welcome back. This is Felix from Goldhammer Vintage Watches. Many owners and also collectors regularly ask us how often we recommend a service for their vintage watches. Here you can see the manual wine caliber 215 PS of a 1990s Patek Philippe Calatrava. Does a preventive service of this piece make sense, as long as the watch seems to run well and keep time? You will learn why you should service a watch at all, where to service your watch, how to find the right watchmaker, and interesting topics like if you should use a watch winder. Today's topic appears like a clear and simple question, but it is not that easy to answer and often quickly turns into a full-blown discussion. So let's start with the basics. If a watch stops working, it is pretty clear why to service or repair the watch. It is very important that as soon as you notice your watch losing time, gaining time, or behaving irregularly in any way, you stop wearing it and send it for service. If you do, the chances of major damage to the watch are minimal. But why you should service a fully functional watch? Necessary or not? Like any car, a watch has lubricated mechanical components such as gears and more, and when lubricants wear out, the parts that rely on lubrication become damaged. We recommend our clients to service their vintage watches every 3 to 5 years. But it's important to mention that this recommendation only refers to watches with a daily use, but more to that point later. To get back to the car comparison, if you own an old vehicle, like my beautiful 20-old-year Suzuki, you send it in regular service and don't wait for the engine to stop one day. Not to mention that once the damage is done, it is much harder and more expensive to repair. And of course the same is true for vintage watches. For this reason, regular service is absolutely useful. But more important is why and how a watch should be serviced. Wherever oil is used in the mechanical world, the goal of lubrication is to minimize friction between contact points. Of course, it is not enough to unscrew the cap and refill the oil as you do with your car. In the case of a watch, the working surface of the movement must be thoroughly cleaned before oiling to avoid spreading and fastly wear out the lubricant. The type of oil is important, as is the amount of oil applied. Too much oil will cause it to overflow and be drawn away from the bearing surface. Oil in the wrong places attracts dust and causes accelerated wear. As mentioned before, the service interval from 3 to 5 years are only necessary for watches that are used on a daily basis. However, many customers ask whether a maintenance cycle is also suitable for the collection of vintage watches. So the question is, do I need to regularly service watches that I don't wear often? The majority of people wear into vintage watches own more than one watch. Consequently, they do not wear the same watch every day and prefer variety on the wrist. A watch that is not ideally lubricated will clearly wear less if it runs less. The damage is only done if a watch runs. From this point of view, we can conclude that watches that are worn less often also have to be serviced less often. So let's use this opportunity to talk about the topic of watch winders. Watch winders are a popular trend among owners of watches with self-winding or automatic movements. The idea behind them is to keep the watch moving so that the mainspring stays fully wound. However, the truth is that watch winders are not good for your old watch. Not only does constant winding put undue stress on the watch's winding system, but also wears out the lubrication faster. After all, you don't leave your vintage car in the garage with the engine running either. Instead, just store the watch and allow the mainspring to unwind. But let's get back to watches that get worn less often. Me and my brother have the motto, better safe than sorry. Over the years, the lubricants like on this Omega Constellation caliber 561 lose their perfect properties, whether the watch is worn or not. Not because they wear out, rather because especially older lubricants dry out. Interesting to note is that this is less a problem with modern synthetic lubricants. If you want to start or already own a collection of vintage watches and are not looking for a quick sale of the watch, we strongly advise you to have all watches checked, serviced, and if necessary overhauled as soon as possible. Always keep in mind that with each passing year, spare parts for your watches will become rarer and more expensive. It is likely that a time will come when there will be no more spare parts for many models. Then you have with certainty a collection in a technical top condition that can easily defy the ravages of time. But if you buy a watch with the intention to wear it only a few months and sell it afterwards, it looks quite different. As long as it keeps time and work as it should, you can be happy with it in this case. Keep in mind, however, that the missing service history and the not technical perfect condition will affect the resale price. So in summary, we can say that an old watch collection don't need to be serviced every 3 to 5 years. Even if the lubricants and or seals have aged, it won't do much damage to the watch in the few days it is worn. It is important that the vintage watches in your collection are technically up to date and worn parts are replaced as soon as possible while they are still available. If you only have one watch and you wear this watch daily, we recommend a regular service in a 3 to 5 year cycle. But like each topic, it's up to each person how to deal with it. Another important issue is that not all watchmakers really know their craft. Finding the right one feels like looking for a needle in a haystack. Taking a vintage watch to a watchmaker who only knows about current models is like going to a plastic surgeon with a heart attack. Over the years, we have heard of various damages by watchmakers, from scratch dials up to damaged crowns. So many owners of vintage watches believe that the best way to ensure proper service is to send the watch to the original manufacturer. While the manufacturers are quite able to do this work, they have a high standard for perfection. A patinated dial, for example, is usually considered worn and is often replaced, as are crowns, bezels, hands and glasses. Manufacturers are also known to polish cases with scratches or traces of use. For vintage watch collectors, these characteristics are what make watches desirable and valuable, which means that the manufacturer maintenance can actually devalue the timepiece. To avoid this, you should contact a trusted professional who's familiar with working on vintage watches. But how to find the perfect watchmaker? If your watch is new, it is better to go to the official places, because the original warranty is still valid. If it is an old watch, a good trustworthy watchmaker is often probably the best choice. However, since there is a wide range of watchmakers, it is the best to trust the experience of others. That's why we recommend you to check out the various watch forums and ask watch enthusiasts there for their best advice to find the best watchmaker for your particular needs. Because in some situations, you might be better served by one specialized professional or another. The cost of a watch service varies depending the manufacturer, the model of the watch, and of course the scope of service. Depending on the services provided as part of the watch service, brand and complications, the price range from about $250 up to $2,500 and more. So that's all from today. We hope you enjoyed this video as we do and learned something new. So have a great day and hope to see you in our next video.